This bill has to do with protecting kids from bullying, exploitation, and matters of hate speech.
I wouldn't wish this upon my worst enemy. I feel like that you don't recover from these jobs.
No, I don't even like the skateboarding videos where they fall. I don't like it. I want to see.
Those are visceral.
So not the job for you. Some of the proposed new penalties for online hate are raising eyebrows. The National Post ran with the headline, New Liberal Online Harms Bill to make online hate punishable with up to life in prison.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
Safe to say, there is a lot of concerns about how this will be enforced. On Monday, Justice Minister Ara Farani tried to assuage some fears by promising that something will remain on the internet, even if this legislation passes. What did he say will still be in our feeds?
Bird attacks. They're fantastic.
Yeah.
I love them. When a goose dive.
Things will still be there, but here is what Mr. Ara Farani said.
We are not talking about stuff that some people call awful but lawful. There will still be humiliating comments. There will still be offensive comments, insults, expressions of disdain and dislike.
Okay.
This guy!
Why was he so excited about that?
Insane list!
Yeah.
Still derogatory language towards marginalized groups. Don't worry, that'll stay
That's
there.
gonna
That can stay there.
We love that.
Panel, somehow we've reached the end of another exciting Because News. Our champion this week is Miguel Rivas. Congratulations, Miguel. You have the honor of reading our credits.
This is all I have.
I'm Gavin Crawford reminding you that the Weather Network says Canada is in for a warm but moody spring. So that should be nice. Or maybe it won't. I don't know. Leave me alone. Sorry. We'll see you next time. Why?
Because News.
Give it up for Miguel Rivas, Emma Hunter, and Chris Sandiford.
Hello, bonjour, Canada. This is Miguel Rivas, and I am once again the winner of Because News. Congratulations to my runners-up, Chris Sandiford and Emma Hunter. Because News is written and produced by Shannon Higgins, Gavin Crawford, Phil Lung, and Jess Klimowski. This week, they had help from Alice Moran and John Blair. Rounding out the team, Aaron Conway, Bronwyn Page, Errol Gonzalez, and our recording engineer, Mr. Paul Hodge.
This is CBC Radio 1, 990 AM, 89.3 FM in Winnipeg.
Celebrate Black History Month in the classroom with the CBC Music Playlist Challenge. Hey, I'm Angeline Terueo, and we're bringing hip-hop and students together. Download our free lesson plan on hip-hop and social justice in Canada. Then create a 15-song YouTube playlist of your favorite Black Canadian musicians. Your class could win a virtual concert with Chad Price.
I just want to make the most of this life. Sometimes I
Enter now at cbcmusic.ca/music class.
You know the feeling of finding a really good podcast? Or the feeling of someone always being there, like your favorite radio show? Stream CBC Podcasts, CBC Music, and CBC Radio anytime, anywhere. Download the CBC Listen app.
This is CBC News. At 12 o'clock, we're at minus 11 degrees with mostly sunny skies over downtown Winnipeg. It's good to be with you this afternoon. I'm Matt Humphrey. City plowing crews are out on Winnipeg streets to deal with the most recent snowstorm. The city says major routes are being plowed, including streets, sidewalks, and pathways. Other routes will be cleared based on the street priority system. The annual winter route parking ban is still in effect. That means you can't park on those streets between 2 a.m. and 7 a.m. Drivers are asked to watch out for heavy equipment and to drive to conditions. People in Brandon are digging out after 29 centimeters of snow was dumped on the city this past weekend. Schools, including Brandon University, are closed today because of the conditions. Justin Ortel lives in Brandon and says conditions really started to deteriorate in the middle of the afternoon yesterday.
At 3 in the afternoon, the snow really picked up and became really heavy. It was pure white out here in Brandon, and I think that's what caught people off guard most, was just how quickly the snow piled up and it got so bad into the afternoon hours. We were actually out through the city of Brandon helping motorists that were stuck, trying to get them back home.
Ortel says the biggest problem is the wind, and it's picking up all that snow. It's creating high drifts. Ortel says Brandon city crews are out plowing major routes today. A 28-year-old man from Steinbach has been charged with second-degree murder. RCMP were called to a home on 2nd Street in Emerson on Friday evening. A 48-year-old man was found dead inside the home. Investigators quickly ruled the death a homicide. Yesterday, Ryan Weens of Steinbach was arrested. He remains in custody. The city of Winnipeg came within a whisker of balancing its budget last year. This after previously expecting a larger deficit. The CBC's Bartley Kivas explains.
The final budget numbers for 2023 show a deficit of just under $300,000. That's close to a rounding error. The overall budget last year was $1.3 billion. As recently as January, the city was predicting a $7 million deficit. It's common for the budget picture to brighten up as the final numbers come in. Still, the city has to rely on its rainy day fund to cover the small deficit. That fund was almost drained during the worst years of COVID. City finance officials are working on a plan to replenish that rainy day fund. Bartley Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
And speaking of budgets, we've just learned the federal Liberal government will table its 2024 budget on April 16th. It will be presented to Parliament by Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland. The United States Supreme Court has handed Donald Trump a big victory. The court has ruled the former president can't be removed from election ballots by individual states. Colorado had tried to ban Trump over his involvement in the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. Katie Simpson reports from Washington.
Donald Trump is calling the Supreme Court's decision a big win for America, writing that in all caps on his social media platform just minutes after it was released. The court unanimously agreed the state of Colorado does not have the power to remove Trump from its primary election ballots. A previous ruling from a state-level court said that because Trump was involved in the January 6th attack, he took part in an insurrection, which is a direct violation of the Constitution and is therefore disqualified from holding office. The Supreme Court rejected that argument outright, saying on this specific issue, states do not have the power to determine who violates the Constitution. Instead, that is up to Congress. The decision offers clarity ahead of Super Tuesday. Colorado is among the 15 states holding votes tomorrow. Trump is expected to dominate as he inches closer to securing the Republican presidential nomination. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Washington.
Alberta Mounties have laid multiple terrorism charges against the man accused of firing a gun inside Edmonton City Hall. 28-year-old Bazani Sarvar of Edmonton is also facing numerous charges laid by Edmonton police. Last month, a man fired several shots inside City Hall and threw a Molotov cocktail from the second floor of the atrium. No one was injured. Sarvar remains in custody, and a court appearance is scheduled for tomorrow. Canadian jazz great Eleanor Collins has died at the age of 104. John Aspiri has more on the life and legacy of Canada's first lady of jazz.
Lullaby of birdland, that's what I...
During her long career, Eleanor Collins worked with jazz greats such as Dizzy Gillespie and Oscar Peterson. Born in Alberta, Collins moved to Vancouver in the late 30s, making a name for herself in the city's jazz scene. In the 50s, she starred in CBC's The Eleanor Show, becoming the first woman to headline their own national TV series. The singer received national recognition in her later years. She was appointed to the Order of Canada for her work, and Canada Post unveiled a postage stamp in her honor in 2022. Speaking to CBC News for her 100th birthday, Collins reflected on a life of music through the lyrics of a song made famous by singer Shirley Horn.
No complaints and no regrets. I still believe in chasing dreams and placing bets, but I have learned that all you give is all you get, so give it all you got.
Eleanor Collins was 104. John Aspiri, CBC News, Vancouver.
In Winnipeg, a high of -10 today with a strong wind from the southwest. Mainly sunny conditions for the most part. Brandon, a high of -11 with blowing snow. In Dauphin, snowy and windy with skies clearing and a high of -13 degrees. Right now, you are listening to CBC Radio 1.
Hello, Manitoba. You're listening to Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM and 990 AM in Winnipeg, 97.9 FM in Brandon, 100.9 FM in Thompson. I'm Emily Brass, sitting in on the first day of maternity leave for Marjorie Dowhouse. Here's what's coming up on the show. When it comes to climate change, people in Morden are calling for a show of faith. We'll hear why the city's faith leaders are teaming up to help the environment. And have you been digging out this morning? If you're in southwestern Manitoba, you probably got hit with anywhere from 20 to 29 centimeters of snow just since yesterday. We'll talk to the mayor of Brandon to find out how that's affecting things in the Wheat City. All that and more coming up on Radio Noon. 7 minutes after 12 o'clock, and you're listening to Radio Noon on CBC Radio 1. Oh, much of Westman is buried under a pile of snow today. The heavy snowfall started yesterday, and by this morning, snowfall totals in southwestern Manitoba range from 21 to 24 centimeters, according to Environment Canada. Meanwhile, the city of Brandon was hit with a whopping 29 centimeters. Joining us now to talk about the impact of the storm is Brandon Mayor Jeff Fawcett. Hello.
Hello, Emily. How are you?
Not bad. How about you? How would you describe the scene right now in Brandon?
Well, if you're looking out your window, it's a beautiful scene. Beautiful blue sky and white snow everywhere. If you're driving around, it's less perfect.
Right. Yeah. I mean, how often does something like this happen in Brandon, 29 centimeters in such a short period of time?
Well, in such a short period of time, it's right. It was about 6 hours that really did this. But we get a big snowstorm like this every year. We had one last year. The more unusual thing this year is the filling potholes in January and February. This is just a real good winter storm.
Gotcha. Meanwhile, the Brandon School Division's closed today. So is Brandon University. And you touched on this a bit earlier. How dangerous is it right now on the roads?
Well, if you don't need to be on the roads, there's not much point in going out. And I think that's the big reason why the college is closed in town today, ACC, the university, and the school division, partly just to keep people off the road today. That keeps a lot of people off the road, gives a better opportunity to get them clear, and just makes sure it's a little bit safer. Mm-hmm. It is a lot of snow, and so a lot of streets are down to sort of one lane, just where the tracks are, and it for those that know how to drive in this snow, it isn't that bad. And neighbors help one another out. But if you don't need to be out, they'll bother going out today.
Yeah. So down to the tracks on one side of the street. I mean, what are city crews doing right now to respond to the dump of snow?
Well, they got out about midnight last night. I think they got out there because, you do want to wait until sort of the snow stops. And it's a nice clear day today. And so they've been working since midnight last night. They'll be doing the double shifts all the way through. We do have private operators that are going to help us out as well. They have an obligation to do their contracted jobs first, and then they will come out and help the city to try to get their cleanup done as quick as possible.
How long do you think it's going to take to get all the city streets and the highways cleared in Brandon?
It will probably take all week. The P1 routes will be done here quickly, hopefully, but to get to every city street, it'll probably take all week, and we expect that we will need to get to all the streets. You know how sometimes in snowstorms you don't, because 3 or 4 days and they're going to be fairly clear, but there is enough snow out there that we will need to get to all our city streets, and by the end of the week, hopefully we'll have it all done.
Mm-hmm. And we mentioned the school closures. How about businesses? Do you have a sense of how many businesses might be shut down? Maybe people are working from home today.
Well, I think that there was a number that made that choice, just for a number of reasons. Probably if it's walk-up traffic, you're not getting a whole lot. If it's sometimes just easier to not have staff coming in on days that is not going to be very busy. Private sector business, they make those calls on their own, and they do. I know my wife works at the hospital, and they didn't shut it down, so she was off and made sure she got away to work this morning.
Well, yeah. In fact, I'm wondering about, people who might be experiencing emergencies or medical situations. Like, how might they get help if the roads are a bit dicey?
It's just more difficult. And that's one of the reasons that also, again, with the school division and the college and the university closed, that does take some traffic off the road, so that if we do need emergency vehicles and that it's just a little bit easier. I expect it'll just be today and by tomorrow residential streets will still be difficult, but it'll get a little easier to get around.
Mm-hmm. And then how about the city's homeless population? Is there any extra support being offered to them right now?
I don't know how much extra is, but I do know that we do have the daytime shelters. We have the evening shelters. We do have Samaritan House doing all kinds of different things all the time. So conveniently, there is places to go and places to be. And we have a very, very strong team of social service agencies that work together and would be very cognizant about that and making sure that things are, that everybody's being taken care of. And conveniently, the weather itself is not that bad today. It was more yesterday and last night. And honestly, it was traffic. It was visibility was really bad yesterday. It was worse yesterday. We actually had our buses stopped for 2 hours. Visibility was so poor.
You mean the city buses?
City buses. You couldn't see a block ahead.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So today is much easier in that sense. So the city buses are going. There might be some delays with the roads, but yesterday was, for travel and getting around, yesterday was really a no-go if you didn't have to be out. Between the snow falling, visibility, the snow compiling, it was really not a good day yesterday. Fortunately, it was a Sunday, which is sometimes slower.
Yeah, really. That's lucky it was on a Sunday, and today a bit of a reprieve. Mm-hmm. Provincial court sittings are also canceled today in Brandon because of the weather. You're from Brandon. You've been on city council many years. How unusual is that for the courts to be closed because of weather?
I can't tell you I'm all that aware of that. Fortunately, I don't have any court dates, so I don't know. But it does make a little bit of sense. Like, any traffic that doesn't need to go today is probably good not to. So, it does make some sense. It probably will be just for today.
Yeah. So before you go, do you have any messages for people in Brandon today following the storm? I know you mentioned stay home, but what else do you want people to know?
Well, there's a few things. One, stay home if you don't need to. One thing that came out of COVID is we know how to operate and function pretty good for at least a day at home if we need to. And help your neighbors. I'm very fortunate. I have great neighbors that first thing this morning, my neighbor was out on my own paths in my yard, snow blowing it, after my wife and I did about 5 runs yesterday trying to keep up. So help your neighbors, be careful on the road. If someone does need assistance on the road, give them a hand. That's one thing that we do have in this community is everybody's quite helpful, and we do watch out for each other. So make sure you continue to do that all day today and going into tomorrow.
Sounds like a great sense of community in Brandon. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you very much.
That was Jeff Fawcett, the mayor of Brandon.
Your local news at your fingertips.
CBC News has a local news app made for your phone or tablet.
So don't waste time scrolling for the local stories you want. Just download the app to get the information that matters to you when it happens.
And how you want it.
Another way to get your local news. The CBC News app. Download it today.
Hey, how's it going? I'm Nellie Furtado, and I'm bringing the party to the 2024 Juno Awards. Join me in Halifax for Canada's biggest night in music, with performances by my friends, The Beaches, Maestro Fresh West, Charlotte Cardin, and me. It's a party never gonna forget. Promise, Juno?
Don't miss the 2024 Juno Awards live from Halifax. Sunday, March 24th at 8 Eastern on CBC and CBC Gem.
It's 12:15 and you're listening to Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM in Winnipeg, 88.9 FM in Cranberry Portage, 95.5 FM in Oxford House. Taking a quick look at the weather right now in Winnipeg, minus 11 with drifting snow at the airport. Mainly sunny today with blowing snow and gusts up to 60 kilometers an hour with a high of minus 10. In Brandon right now at the airport, minus 15 with blowing snow. Mainly sunny, blowing snow early this afternoon with gusts up to 60 kilometers an hour, but going down to 20 this afternoon. It's going to get a little less windy with a high of minus 11. For Dauphin at the airport right now, minus 14 with blowing snow. Snow ending around now, clearing with gusts up to 70 kilometers an hour, again going down to minus 30 or so this afternoon, or rather 30 kilometers an hour or so this afternoon. Temperature steady around minus 13. And in Thompson right now, we'll pull up the current temperature if we can here. I'm having trouble getting to that one right now, but I will pull it up here in a second for you. In Thompson right now, it is minus 16 with light snow. Today, 2 to 4 centimeters expected, windy with a high of minus 14. You're listening to Radio Noon on CBC Radio 1. Seventeen minutes after 12 o'clock, I'm Emily Brass filling in on Radio Noon. Today, the first day of Marjorie Dowhouse's maternity leave. Well, Manitoba City is turning to faith leaders in the fight against climate change. The city of Morden has already declared a moderate drought, and as we told you last week, that prompted the city to ask residents and businesses to voluntarily conserve water. With the increasing frequency of droughts, people in that city hope to drive solutions, and one of those solutions is getting the city's faith leaders on board. CBC's Riley Laychuk joins us now for more. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So tell us about the
may have all kinds of doubts about climate change.
It's a topic not off limits inside this Southern Manitoba church.
Whatever doubts I had about humanity's impact on our planet died when I saw those before and after images of the oil sands. And my doubts about how I could make a difference emerged.
As the city of Morden already asks residents to conserve water amid a winter drought, the city's faith leaders hope it's a message that resonates with their parishioners. Carrie Martins leads Morden's United Church.
Faith and life in the world and faith and science don't have to be at odds with each other. This can all be one of the same.
In a region with a large Christian base where people are more likely to listen to their faith leaders over government, Sandy Plett hopes to drive the message closer to home. She is the Climate Action Coordinator at Mennonite Church Canada and speaks with congregations about climate change across the country.
Churches actually are built communities. Like, what better place to start doing action with people who already share a purpose?
Both have helped form a new local group called the Pembina Climate Action Network. And while it was born out of their faith and their churches, both say this is supposed to be a community solution.
I have children, they're teenagers, and I want them to enjoy a natural world that I enjoyed as a kid. I want them to see that their parents and their parents' generation took this seriously.
I think there's also a little bit of fear in a community like this about what's happening to the environment.
Earl Dick has lived in the city of Morden for 9 years. He's on board.
Together we can do a good job.
Plett says while there are still skeptics, there are also other ways to address the climate crisis.
If it's polarizing to say climate change, talk about love, talk about the vulnerable, talk about being thirsty, talk about gardens. But yeah, church leaders do have a ton of influence.
Plett and Martins hope the new Climate Action Group can not only brainstorm solutions, but connect the community. Riley Laychuk, CBC News, Morden, Manitoba.
We may have all kinds of doubts about climate change.
It's a topic not off limits inside this Southern Manitoba church.
Whatever doubts I had about humanity's impact on our planet died when I saw those before and after images of the oil sands. And my doubts about how I could make a difference emerged.
As the city of Morden already asks residents to conserve water amid a winter drought, the city's faith leaders hope it's a message that resonates with their parishioners. Carrie Martins leads Morden's United Church.
Faith and life in the world and faith and science don't have to be at odds with each other. This can all be one of the same.
In a region with a large Christian base where people are more likely to listen to their faith leaders over government, Sandy Plett hopes to drive the message closer to home. She is the Climate Action Coordinator at Mennonite Church Canada and speaks with congregations about climate change across the country.
Churches actually are built communities. Like, what better place to start doing action with people who already share a purpose?
Both have helped form a new local group called the Pembina Climate Action Network. And while it was born out of their faith and their churches, both say this is supposed to be a community solution.
I have children, they're teenagers, and I want them to enjoy a natural world that I enjoyed as a kid. I want them to see that their parents and their parents' generation took this seriously.
I think there's also a little bit of fear in a community like this about what's happening to the environment.
Earl Dick has lived in the city of Morden for 9 years. He's on board.
Together we can do a good job.
Plett says while there are still skeptics, there are also other ways to address the climate crisis.
If it's polarizing to say climate change, talk about love, talk about the vulnerable, talk about being thirsty, talk about gardens. But yeah, church leaders do have a ton of influence.
Plett and Martins hope the new Climate Action Group can not only brainstorm solutions, but connect the community. Riley Lachuk, CBC News, Morden, Manitoba.
22 minutes after 12 o'clock, and you're listening to Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM and 990 AM in Winnipeg. In Flin Flon, you can find us at 90.9 FM and 1230 AM in Churchill. I'm Emily Brass, filling in for Marjorie Dowhouse. Well, Christopher Lamb has the kind of neighbors who drop off baked goods, so when the Toronto man saw a Tupperware container in his mailbox, he was looking forward to a treat. But when he opened the container, there was nothing sweet about what was inside. Christopher Lamb shared the story with CBC.
Me and my wife just had our first newborn. You know, after probably a month of not being out anywhere, we went out. We got home and we found we noticed there was a lot of stuff in the mailbox. So we pulled out all the papers, the flyers that you naturally get. Reach in and there's a box, and I'm like, I don't remember ordering anything. Begin to slowly pull it out, realize it's a Tupperware container, it's clear. So I'm like, okay, like all my neighbors have been bringing over cookies and food. They know we have a newborn. Bringing out some more and they're moving. My wife goes, those are cockroaches, Christopher. And I'm like, oh my God, they are. And there's like 20 of them in this Tupperware container, big ones, small ones, baby ones. It was shocking and nightmare fuel, to say the least. I quickly went inside, posted on some community groups, asking, you know, are these your cockroaches? Have they mistakenly been delivered to me? And all the neighbors got a good laugh out of it. And then, to the dismay of my wife, because she said, you're going to leave them outside. Do not bring those inside of our house. But as soon as she went upstairs to feed Dottie, our newborn, I mistakenly brought it inside to take a picture to show my neighbors, because you can't say you got cockroaches in the mail without having the proof. So a neighbor down the street came a few hours later, very, very embarrassed and apologetic, to pick them up. Apparently so they're not quite hissing cockroaches. They're some sort of other cockroach, but essentially they're the best protein that a tarantula can get. She feeds them to her tarantulas and reptiles and all that sort of stuff. So she was very apologetic. She was very, very embarrassed, to say the least. This is definitely the weirdest thing that has directly happened to myself.
Roaches. Yummy if you're a tarantula. Christopher Lamb was the unlucky recipient of a container of live cockroaches that was mistakenly delivered to his door. It's 12:25. You're listening to Radio Noon on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM in Winnipeg, 105.3 FM in Dauphin, 95.7 FM in Peguis First Nation. I'm Emily Brass. Well, Winnipeg's Jess Ray made this next tune in collaboration with West Coast singer-songwriter Scotty Hills. It's called Living in Love.
Crashing in, losing sleep and making love till dawn. Wondering where it starts and where the end begins. Living in a lover's daze, living in that loving phase. There's no ideas left to defend when you're living in love.
Well, I didn't see it coming, so I fell right in to those moonlight eyes and your gentle grin. I'm so far from shore, but I want some more. I'm living in that love's days, living in that loving phase. There's no ideas left to defend when you live in love. I'll put on the breakfast records. I always feel like seconds when you're next to me.
I put on the coffee smell across the kitchen table while you sing those pretty songs to me. Sleeping in, watching morning sun caress your skin. Coffee clouds fall so softly if they must come down.
Breathing in the mystery.
Putting down the history. There's no ideas left to defend when you're living in love.
Ooh, when you're living in love.
Ooh, when you're living in love. Ooh, when you're living in love.
A romantic new tune from Jess Ray and Scotty Hill. That was Living in Love. Time now is 12:29. We're getting close to local news time. And right now in Brandon, it's minus 15 with blowing snow at the airport. In Churchill, it's minus 20. Dauphin at the airport right now, minus 14 with blowing snow. Fisher Branch is at minus 11. Flin Flon, minus 15 with drifting snow. In Gimli, minus 11. Gillam, minus 15 with light snow and blowing snow. Island Lake, snow with minus 12 as the temperature right now. And Lynn Lake, snow with a temperature right now of minus 18. I'm Emily Brass. We'll be back with more on Radio Noon. The local news is next.
This is CBC News. 12:30, we're at minus 11 degrees with mostly sunny skies over downtown Winnipeg. Good afternoon. I'm Matt Humphrey. We now know the dates of both the federal and provincial budget presentations. We've just learned the Manitoba government will table its 2024 budget on April 2nd. NDP leader Wab Kinew shared the news for a few minutes ago, speaking to a crowd in Toronto. And the federal Liberals will table their budget 2 weeks later on April 16th. It will be presented to Parliament by Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland. Brandon is cleaning up after 30 centimeters of snow. Mayor Jeff Fawcett says the city is slowly recovering from the storm.
The buses are all running. They briefly didn't run yesterday, and it was because of visibility where you couldn't even see a block. And it was a problem. So yesterday was actually probably a more difficult day to travel because of visibility on top of the snow.
Fawcett says schools, colleges, and the university are closed today just to keep people off the roads and make plowing easier. He expects the cleanup will be done by the end of the week. Meanwhile, in Winnipeg, city crews are clearing major routes today. The city says snow is being cleared from streets, sidewalks, and pathways. Other routes will be cleared based on the street priority system. The annual winter route parking ban is still in effect. That means you can't park on those streets between 2 a.m. and 7 a.m. Drivers are asked to watch out for heavy equipment while the clearing happens and to drive to conditions. Donald Trump is celebrating a win for his presidential campaign after the United States Supreme Court ruled states cannot keep him off their primary ballots.
I think it will go a long way toward bringing our country together, which our country needs.
That's Trump responding to today's decision, calling it a big win for America. Colorado had argued Trump should be removed because of his involvement in the January 6th Capitol Hill riots, the attack on the Capitol. But justices say that decision to ban candidates is for Congress alone. Some legal experts agree. Derek Muller is with Notre Dame Law School.
Without Congress helping us figure out who engaged in an insurrection, whether or not there's a problem, whether or not somebody has been found liable, guilty, whatever it is, it's not up to one state to do it. Congress needs to set the rules here.
Today's ruling comes a day before Super Tuesday, which is tomorrow, where 15 states and one territory pick their presidential candidates. Trump still faces criminal cases surrounding the events of January 6th. And that's your CBC News from Winnipeg.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Emily.
Are you disappointed we didn't get as much snow as we might have?
Disappointed.
Not the word to use.
We got enough. We definitely got enough, I think.
I think it would have been nice to have that one last blast of a heavy snowfall
Well, we kind of did. Last night, I don't know if you saw it, at I think it was midnight.
Mm-hmm.
It was like sideways snow.
Oh, I was sound asleep. I guess I missed it. I should have got up if I wanted to see that.
It was dramatic. Okay. I have these things hanging off a thing and they blew off and stuff. It was the full deal.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
I just dropped my pen. It's wild out there, Emily.
It's just crazy.
Wild.
Thank you so much. That's Matt Humphrey from the CBC Manitoba News Desk. Taking a quick look at the forecast today for Winnipeg. Mainly sunny with blowing snow in open areas early this afternoon. Windy with gusts up to 60 kilometers an hour with a high of -10. In Brandon, Neepawa, Carberry, Treeherne, mainly sunny today, blowing snow early this afternoon, and windy with gusts up to 60 kilometers an hour, but then diminishing to about 20 kilometers an hour this afternoon, high -11. For Dauphin, Russell, Roblin, Winnipegosis, snow ending right around now, and then it's supposed to clear up. There will be some blowing snow early this afternoon, gusts up to 70 kilometers an hour, diminishing down to 30 or to 50 later this afternoon, which is still pretty windy. Temperature steady around -13. For Thompson, Nelson House, and Split Lake, snow 2 to 4 centimeters expected today. Windy with a high of -14. And in Churchill, mainly cloudy and near blizzard developing right around now. You might be getting hit with some snow. Windy gusts up to 60 kilometers an hour, increasing to 80 at times this afternoon with a high of -19. It's 12:34 right now, and you're listening to Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM in Winnipeg, 101.5 FM in Grand Rapids, and in Swan River, you can find us at 105.3 FM. I'm Emily Brass, filling in for Marjorie Dowhouse. Well, with spring officially starting in just 2 weeks, it was expected we would get one last snowstorm. And while Winnipeg remained mostly unscathed, Brandon was hit with 29 centimeters of snow, and other southwestern areas got 21 to 24 centimeters. Derek Trainer is the Operations Center Manager with Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure. Hi there, Derek.
Hello.
So what do the highways look like right now? Everyone wants to know.
Well, they're definitely, depending where you are, they are improved from this morning. Obviously, we had numerous closures starting yesterday afternoon and into the overnight, and a lot of those main roads, especially around Brandon and southwest Manitoba, have now reopened, with the odd exception on some roads as well.
Okay. And so you have a sense of how many pieces of equipment are out there right now working on it?
Well, provincially, we have 340 pieces of equipment, and I know they were all out early this morning, and we also had equipment out yesterday, and as the storm kind of increased its ferocity during the day.
Is that kind of like an all hands on deck kind of situation to have that many pieces of equipment out?
It is, yes. Yeah, for some, like an event like this, obviously it's, all hands on deck.
Okay. So given that, how soon can people expect the highways to be cleared?
Well, like I say, most highways in southwest Manitoba have reopened. They're still plugging away and scraping, sanding in areas. Some highways up in the north of Riding Mountain Park, in the Dauphin area, those roads are still closed, as they are still dealing with, still trying to clear the highways, as well as a nasty wind issue still.
Yeah, all that blowing snow. You get it cleared and then it comes blowing in again, I guess.
Yeah.
And so what parts of the province were hit the worst? Do you think that was maybe the worst area up around Dauphin? Or like what are some of the places that really need a lot of attention right now?
Well, definitely the Dauphin area seemed to, like from Dauphin up to Swan River, kind of that section of the province did get a lot of snow, because they did have, I think they were the first ones to start closing roads. And then as the day progressed yesterday, obviously we had more closures in the southwest corner around Brandon. Now, like I say, a lot of those roads have reopened. So clearly they're still trying to get some of those roads unplugged up north of Riding Mountain, Dauphin, south of Swan River.
So a lot of highways reopening, but with the blowing snow and everything, I mean, what advice would you want to give drivers if they have to head out?
If you're heading out, check 511 just to make sure you're not going on any roads that are still closed. 511 is updated once the roads are reopened. So if you see red on the map, then you know that section of highway is still closed. But yeah, just to check 511 to see the latest road conditions, and especially in a day like today, drive with caution and drive with caution.
Yeah. And I mean, if someone did, God forbid, end up in the ditch or off the road somehow, is there a way to prepare for that? Like, should drivers keep certain things in their cars? Like, what should they keep in mind in case they do get in a bad situation?
Well, definitely like a winter survival kit would be a good thing, especially if you are traveling on highways, and letting someone at the destination you're leaving, or possibly where you're leaving from, know where you are and maybe what time you'd arrive, so they can kind of know when to expect you in case they don't hear from you. They'll know you're en route.
Any other tips for the best way to drive safely when the roads are icy and there's blowing snow?
No, just drive with caution, take it slow, and just be aware of changing conditions, especially with the winds still being strong today.
Okay. Well, thanks so much for joining us, and keep it up out there, Derek.
Great, thank you.
Derek Trainer is the Operations Center Manager with Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure.
Hi, I'm Una Chaplin, and I'm the host of a new podcast called Hollywood Exiles. It tells the story of how my grandfather, Charlie Chaplin, and many others were caught up in a campaign to root out communism in Hollywood. It's a story of glamour and scandal and political intrigue and a battle for the soul of a nation.
Hollywood Exiles, available now on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
Coming up on 1240, and you're listening to Radio Noon on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM in Winnipeg, 94.5 FM in the Paw, and 102.5 FM in Puckatawakan. I'm Emily Brass, filling in for Marjorie Dowhouse as she begins her maternity leave this week. Well, 90 artists are up for their first ever Juno Awards this year. That includes Winnipeg singer-songwriter Leith Ross, country star Josh Ross, and Punjabi sensation Shub. Another first-time nominee is Mi'kmaq fiddler Morgan Toney, who's nominated in the Traditional Roots Album of the Year category for his latest record, Resilience. Here's Morgan Toney now with the title track.
We are resilient. We are one. With the pureness in our hearts, from all we overcome. This was meant to be, though there was so much in your way, but you follow this dream and move on anyway. So you carry this torch, the flames stay burn bright. You're a spark in the smoke, and you dance through the night. We are resilience, we are one. With the pureness in our hearts, from all we overcome, we are the people of the dawn. The mission of the good we hope will always carry on. We are resilience, we are one. With the pureness in our hearts, from all we overcome, we are the people of the dawn. The mission of the good we hope will always carry on. We are resilience, we are one. With the pureness in our hearts, from all we overcome, we are the people of the dawn. The mission of the good we hope will always carry on. We are resilient, we are one. With the pureness in our hearts, from all we overcome, we are the people of the dawn. The mission of the good we hope will always carry on.
Definitely some East Coast flavor there. That was Morgan Toney from Wagmatcook First Nation on Cape Breton Island with Resilience. He's nominated for his first Juno Award this year in the Traditional Roots Album of the Year category. And you can read more about other first-time nominees over at cbc.ca/music. Well, the Ugdamahumcook Mi'kmaq Fluency Project out of Newfoundland and Labrador is an online school teaching Mi'kmaq people. Although online, recently learners had a chance to practice their skills in Mi'kmaq communities in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia, where we just heard some music from. CBC's Brittany Wetzel caught up with students and instructors as they learned not just about language, but also traditional practices.
Kwe, Deloisi Dean Simon, Deleawi Uktahamcook, Ewipkek, Flat Bay. Luxiap, Eskasoni 2019 ek. I lived and worked here in Eskasoni, and I am the executive director for Uktahamcook Mi'kmaq Fluency Project. So we are visiting all of the Mi'kmaq communities in Unama'ki And we were in Bodledek on yesterday, and we are here in Eskasoni. We are off to Wahamitcook tomorrow, and then finally Waikogama on Thursday, and then back to Membertou on Friday.
And the crew that you've brought here, the students, they're from Newfoundland?
Most of the people are from Newfoundland, but some have flown in from as far as BC, Toronto. The Mi'kmaq language has been dormant in Newfoundland since about the mid-1990s. The last fluent speaker passed away. And there's a real hunger for culture amongst our people who weren't recognized for many years. Joey Smallwood famously said there was no Indigenous people in Newfoundland during Confederation in 1949, and we beg to differ very, very strongly.
Coming from a place where you say the language is dormant, what is it like for your students to experience this, a real immersive experience?
Well, this is the whole point of the exercise, is to hear the language every day for 7 days straight. To utilize their basic skills when we go into stores and asking for simple things, and to just make it a part of daily life in a real way for 7 days straight.
How do you feel watching your students get to have these interactions?
I've got goosebumps the whole time, especially when I hearing somebody speak back to them in Mi'kmaq for the first time. It's a really moving experience. Everybody practice. Go next.
Okay, great.
And what are you teaching folks here today?
We're scraping a deer hide, and we're gonna flesh an otter hide, otter pelt, and we're gonna skin some flying squirrels and weasel.
Can you tell me a little bit about yourself? Dean says that you practice a lot of traditional things.
Yes, I hunt, fish, trap. I'm outside a lot, big time, like out in the woods. I try to use language as much as I can outside.
I heard your son was smudging the crew last week. Is that true?
Yes, it's true. Yes, he's very smart. Like he's not good at English, which is good. His first language is Mi'kmaq. I didn't know until like summertime that he knew how to speak English. I didn't know. He's 5. I was the same way. I didn't know how to speak English till I was about 4 or 5.
Why has it been so important for you to instill that in your son?
It's who we are. Huh? It's like, like my dad, growing up, my dad used to always say, you said. Like, you're a Mi'kmaq and Mi'kmaq speaks Mi'kmaq. So, just stuck with me. Yeah?
What do you think about, people who might not have been able to grow up with the language and coming back to it? Like, how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel nice. It makes me feel nice knowing that I won't have to speak English forever. And so, same with my son, he'll be able to speak his language to his people. I read one day, it's like when you die, how are we supposed to talk to your ancestor? You no longer speak their language.
Koe Daniel White Aloisi, Winnipegzi Nojokonik Oktahamkok, Deleawi Ottawa. So my name is Danielle White. I'm originally from the west coast of Newfoundland, St. George's, and I now live in Ottawa. So I've been a student for the last 3 years of the Mi'kmaq language with Dean, and he asked me in the fall when we were starting this new organization to be on the board, so I'm a board member as well.
And is this your first time being in a community where the predominant language is Mi'kmaq?
So actually, the last time I was in Eskasoni was 30 years ago. I was here as part of a youth project, and I remember walking into the corner store, and that was the first time I'd ever heard people speaking the language. Growing up in Newfoundland, the language was almost lost, and so it's really special to be back here.
How does it feel then to watch some of the students here have that same experience?
It's amazing. For me, the language is such an important insight into the culture. I don't think you can really fully understand or appreciate the culture and the way of knowing, way of being, way of thinking until you can start to unlock the language and understand who we are and what makes us who we are as Olnu.
Thanks to CBC's Brittany Wenzel for that report. 10 minutes before 1 o'clock, and you're listening to Radio Noon on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM in Winnipeg, 99.9 FM in Gillam, 97.9 FM in Verdun. I'm Emily Brass, filling in today for Marjorie Dowhouse. Well, as you've been hearing during the show, Western Manitoba is digging itself out after a huge dump of snow. As much as 29 centimeters fell, according to some reports in Brandon. A CBC Newsnet spoke to Brandon's Justin Ortal this morning. He runs the Facebook group Weather Center of Manitoba, and here he is speaking with CBC's Linda Ward.
I can see, I think just over your shoulder there, somebody is going to have a hard time getting to work. You're going to have to dig that car out. Is that your car?
No, it's not mine. It's a neighbor's vehicle. But yeah, the creek's pretty clogged here in Brandon. We got lots of ruts, and the snow's kind of blowing through this field back here, and it's drifting right across the street.
Oh, so some difficult digging out. Hopefully everybody's going to pitch in and help. You run, as I say, this Facebook group tracking the storm. I understand you were doing sort of live coverage, timeline of the storm as it happens. Can you run us through just how this all played out?
Yeah, so we woke up to just a little bit of light snow in the morning yesterday. Probably started off the day with 2 or 3 centimeters, and then we had the snow kind of change to some ice pellets and then freezing rain for a couple hours. And then as we got into the afternoon hours, about 2 or 3 in the afternoon, the snow really picked up and became really heavy. It was pure white out here in Brandon, and I think that's what caught people off guard most, was just how quickly the snow piled up and it got so bad into the afternoon hours. We were actually out through the city of Brandon helping motorists that were stuck, trying to get them back home, and actually had to tow one sports car that had tried to get out in the winter storm back just a couple blocks back to their house as well. So pretty crazy.
And I can hear, it sounds like the wind is pretty brisk out there as well today. So as you say, blowing the storm around. What are you experiencing in terms of road conditions and driving around at this point in time, and the cleanup that the city crews have been able to do?
Yeah, so far there's not a lot of traffic out on the roads. Just the main roads there's more traffic. The side streets there's a lot of issues with the side streets as the snow's really blowing over, and I'm sure there'll be more cars stuck on the road. So if you got a small car with front wheel or just back wheel drive, I wouldn't recommend traveling outside. We actually, the high school in the background here, the Brandon School Division has closed all the schools. Only the third time since 1998 we had that big winter storm in 97, 98. So quite a rare event here for Brandon and the southwestern corner of the province.
Why do you think this one is so significant compared to what you normally experience? What are the challenges that this storm is posing for people out there?
Well, I think the main thing is that Brandon has actually, up to this point, has not really had much snow at all, which is very rare for this part. The fact that it's winter. Yeah, we really haven't had much snow, and the snow that we have had has melted because it's been a relatively warm winter. So yeah, it's just caught people off guard, and we are seeing some snowplows out here right now. They're clearing mainly the downtown routes right now. So again, it'll probably be a few days at least until these side streets get cleaned up.
What are your concerns right now going forward over the next few days as people in the community start trying to clean up and maybe, checking on vulnerable people, the neighbors, and people being able to get access to things that they might need or trouble getting access to things that they might need?
Yeah, I would say for sure, if you're someone who's able, definitely check on any elderly folks or people who can't get out of their homes. It's drifted pretty badly, so definitely people who can't move around as well as others are definitely going to be getting out and getting the things that they need. Also, speaking of the highways, Trans-Canada remains closed, and part of the Highway 16 here in kind of western Manitoba is also closed. So not sure when they're going to open. We haven't heard any timelines on that, but it could be the afternoon or even later on in the day. But yeah, there's a lot of semis right now just covering the Trans-Canada, waiting to move on the North Hill here in Brandon. So we'll have to kind of keep watching that as well over the next few hours.
That are just stuck waiting for the roads to be cleared.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, well, yeah, it certainly sounds like there's going to be some hunkering down happening over the next couple of days, and hopefully you and your neighbors can get your shovels together and help out that poor soul there who can't get their car out. We appreciate you bringing this to us today. Justin Ortel from Brandon, Manitoba.
I'd be reaching out for nothing in the middle of the night, trying to hide punchlines, but they don't land right. Who would I miss? Who would I hold tight? Who will outshine the sun in the morning light? What in the world would I do without you? What in the world would I do without you? Who in the world would the birds sing to? Who'd be the eye in my I love you? Who'd make all of my dreams come true? Who'd forgive what I can't undo? What in the world would I do without you? What in the world would I do without you? I'd be driving at night with no lights on, trying to find my way home. What in the world would I do without you? A slow song, would I spin around? Who'd be the home in my hometown? When I get too high, who'd take off my crown? When I'm up on a ledge, who'd talk me down? What in the world would I do without you? What in the world would I do without you?
That's the Brothers Landreth with What in the World. Time now is 12:58, and joining me in the studio is Chloe Friesen, and she's going to be hosting Up to Speed today. What's coming up on the show?
Hi, Emily. So we're going to hear from the curator of a new art exhibit at the University of Manitoba's School of Art Gallery, and it's showcasing the experiences of women living through the war in Ukraine.
Oh my gosh.
So we'll hear more about that exhibit. And
sounds powerful.
It sounds very powerful.
Okay. Thanks so much, Chloe. That's Chloe Friesen, and Up to Speed begins at 3 o'clock, so tune back in then. That's about going to do it for Radio Noon today. I'm Emily Brass, filling in for Marjorie Dowhouse. Thanks to Issa Kickson, Matt Humphrey, and Riley Laitchuk for their help with the show. On video today, we have Travis Peterson with our YouTube channel. Dylan Longhurst is our studio director. Our show producer is Nellie Gonzalez, and senior producer of audio here at CBC Manitoba is Leif Larson. You're listening to CBC Radio 1. Stick around. The next chapter is next.
Your home, your street, your neighborhood, your